class, this is Miss Lena Yvonne Nuco. I will be discussing with you today this week's topics, which is Module 13. Module 13 is about your digestive system. Just a few reminders before you start watching this video lecture. Number 1, please do take down notes. Second is listen attentively and avoid unnecessary distractions. Third one, which is a very unique thing with my discussions, is to give extra attention to information marked with a star. If you will be seeing a star anywhere in the PowerPoint, it means that that information is a recall question in the medical technology licensure examinations or the board exam. Again, any information marked with a star anywhere in the PowerPoint or the video lecture is a recall question in the board exam. It may be the actual question itself or it may be a related topic. Okay, so let's start the learning objectives of this digestive system lecture, which is the describe and correlate the anatomical and physiological structures of the digestive system and its common pathologic conditions. So we will be dealing with the specific organs that it encompasses the digestive system, what are its functions, and the common diseases or pathologic conditions associated with the digestive system. And then just a few outlines of what we will be discussing today. Number 1 is the overview and functions of the digestive system itself, so the overall function. Second is the anatomy of the digestive system, so basically its structures, the specific structures that is a part of the digestive system, which is the oral cavity, the pharynx, the esophagus, the stomach, the small and large intestines, the liver, the pancreas, and the gallbladder. Third is the actual process that actually happens inside the digestive system, which is the digestion, the absorption, and the transport process. And then the fourth one is, of course, the common disorders or diseases of the digestive system. Okay, so let's start. What is the main function or what are the main function of your digestive system? The digestive system contributes to the homeostasis by breaking down food into forms that can be absorbed and used by the cells, by body cells. So what does it mean, ma'am, yung word na homeostasis? Guys, homeostasis actually means the balance inside the body. So basically, inside our body, there are many different molecules and chemical reaction that takes place. Our body tends to want this certain type of balance inside of us. Like for example, there should be a certain level of glucose or energy inside our body. It shouldn't be in balance. Okay, so yun yung ibig sabihin ni homeostasis, is the balance of this chemical reactions or molecules inside of us. And a good thing to take note of that the digestive system actually is one of the major contributors to this balance or homeostasis that happens inside of us as humans and also animals. Another main function of our digestive system is it also absorbs the water, the vitamins and minerals that comes from the food that we are eating, and it also eliminates the waste products of that particular food outside the body. So again, here are the main functions of the digestive system. Number 1, it contributes to the homeostasis or the balance inside the body by breaking down this food into forms that can be absorbed and used by body cells. And then the second one is it absorbs the water, the vitamins, and minerals from the ingested food, and it eliminates the waste products from the body. So, the digestive system actually has 6 basic processes. So, basically, ito po yung nangyayari inside the digestive system. The first process is through ingestion, which is, of course, the taking of food into the mouth. So, pagkain yan. We also have the secretion process. What happens in the secretion process is there will be the release of the water, acids, the buffers, and enzymes to the gastrointestinal tract, making the function of the digestive system good. So, yun yung purpose ni secretion. We also have, of course, the motility of the ingested food inside the body. Hindi naman kasi pwede na ang food natin is mag-i-stock or it will be stuck in a certain area. Like, for example, what if nag-stock ang food sa esophagus? So, dapat tuloy-tuloy yung kanyang motility, which is through mixing, the propulsion, and the churning of our food or ingested food. The fourth process is, andun na yung term, digestive. So, pinaka-main function talaga ng digestive system is of course the digestion, which can either be mechanical or chemical in nature. We will be talking about the mechanical and chemical breakdown of food or digestion later on. So, and then the fifth process is through the absorption, which is the passage of digested products from the gastrointestinal tract into the blood and the lymph. So basically, from here, we are just ingesting the food. When we reach now the fifth process, which is absorption, those molecules, the vitamins, the minerals, the water that comes from that food should now be absorbed into our blood system and then to the rest of the body so that it may be able to be utilized to reach the homeostasis, which is the main function of the digestive system as mentioned earlier. And then the sixth process, the last process, is of course the defecation or the elimination of stool from the gastrointestinal tract. So again, let's just repeat the 6 basic processes that happens inside the digestive system. Again, number 1 is ingestion. So, kumain tayo ng food. Second is the secretion or the release of the water, acids, buffers, and enzymes to the gastrointestinal tract so that it may be able to function properly. Third one is the motility of the food inside our system. The certain food that we eat should not be stuck anywhere, especially in the top part of our body. So, example of that is through the mixing, the propulsion, and the churning of the food. Fourth one is of course the digestion process, which can either be mechanical or chemical in nature. The fifth process again is the absorption itself, the absorption of the vitamins, minerals, etc. or the different molecules that is found in food now to our blood system so that it may be able to be utilized inside our body. And then the last process is of course the defecation process, which is the elimination of feces or stool from the gastrointestinal tract to outside our body. So, what are the organs of the digestive system? The organs of the digestive system can actually be categorized into two. The first one is the gastrointestinal tract or the alimentary canal. The gastrointestinal tract or the alimentary canal is actually a continuous tube that extends from the mouth to the anus through the thoracic and abdominopelvic cavities. It is a good thing to take note, guys, that this GI tract or otherwise known as the alimentary canal is a continuous tube. So basically, this is just a one-way tube. It is continuous. Walang parang segue, ganon. It is a continuous tube inside our body. The gastrointestinal tract, guys, please do take note that it just includes the following organs of the digestive system. This is a continuous tube. So, it includes your mouth. So basically, pag kunwari nag-ingest tayo ng food, pagkain natin, dadaan yan sa mouth nyo. Next is most of our pharynx is a part of the GI tract as well. Your esophagus, so yan. After the pharynx, esophagus yung next. And next one is of course your stomach. And then the last one is the intestines. So again, what is the gastrointestinal tract or otherwise known as the alimentary canal? Please do take note that this is a continuous tube. This is a one-way tube. Walang mga extra extensions and stuff like that. It is just a continuous tube. So basically, pag kumain ka, galing sa mouth, down to the intestines, then outside our body, that is the alimentary canal. It is a continuous tube. Another category of the organs of the digestive system is actually the accessory organs. So, di ba pag sinabi nating accessory, di ba yung mga extras lang. However, although these are just accessory organs, it is very vital so that the digestive system can function properly. So, what is the function of your accessory organs? That is to produce or to store the secretions that flow into the gastrointestinal tract through ducts, which aid in the chemical breakdown of food. So, even though, again, these are just accessory organs, these accessory organs are very vital so that the digestive system actually functions properly. A good example of the accessory organs of the digestive system is your teeth, the tongue, the salivary glands, the liver, the gallbladder, and the pancreas. We will be dealing with each one of these later on. So again, categorize the organs of the digestive tract into two. Number one, that is the GI tract or the alimentary canal. It is again, a continuous tube. It includes your mouth, most of your pharynx, the esophagus, the small intestines, and the stomach. And also the accessory organs, which produces or stores secretions that flow into the GI tract, which aids in the chemical breakdown of food. And then again, the accessory organs of the digestive system includes your teeth, your tongue, your salivary glands, the liver, the gallbladder, and the pancreas. Okay, so let's also talk about the layers of the gastrointestinal tract. So our gastrointestinal tract actually has 4 major layers of this. So let's try to look at this picture. The first layer of our gastrointestinal tract or the GI tract is actually first is the mucosa, which is referred to as the mucous membrane. So if you can try to decipher in this illustration, the mucosa is actually this one. Okay, so again, here is the mucosa. And then the other layers are the submucosa, the muscularis, and the serosa. But let's deal with the mucosa first. The mucosa, which is the first layer of the GI tract, can actually be categorized also into 3 different layers. Okay, so the first layer of your mucosa, let's try to look at this illustration. The first layer is your epithelium, which can either be non-keratinized, stratified, squamous epithelium, or a simple columnar epithelium. This will vary depending on the location. I repeat, the first layer of the mucosa of the GI tract, epithelium. It can either be non-keratinized, stratified, squamous epithelium, or a simple columnar epithelium. This will vary depending on the location. Please do take note that the layer that is, or the epithelium layer that can be found in your mouth, the pharynx, the esophagus, and then the anal canal is actually made out of a non-keratinized, stratified, squamous epithelium. I repeat, the epithelium that lines your mouth, the pharynx, the esophagus, and then the anal canal is made out of a non-keratinized, stratified, squamous epithelium. Next, what is the epithelium that lines your stomach and intestine? The stomach and intestine actually has the simple columnar epithelium. I repeat, lining of the stomach and your intestine is made out of a simple columnar epithelium. Next, another layer of our mucosa here is the lamina propria, which is an areolar connective tissue with many blood and lymphatic vessels which serve as the routes by which nutrients absorbed into the GI tract reach the other tissues of the body. So the lamina propria is actually the layer that is the one that is absorbing the different molecules so that it may be able to reach the other parts or other tissues of our body. Next is your muscularis mucosae. The function of this muscularis mucosae is to increase the surface area of the stomach and small intestine for digestion and absorption process. So here is the mucosa. Here. The mucosa again is subdivided into 3 different layers. First is your epithelium, which can either be a non-keratinized, stratified, squamous epithelium or a simple columnar epithelium. It varies depending on the location. Please do take note that the non-keratinized, stratified, squamous epithelium is present in the mouth, the pharynx, esophagus, and your anal canal, while the lining of the stomach and our intestines is made out of a simple columnar epithelium. Next is the layer lamina propria, which are made out of areolar connective tissue, which is where the nutrients is absorbed into the gastrointestinal tract to reach the other tissues of our body. And then the last one is your muscularis mucosae, which increase the surface area of the stomach and the small intestine for digestion and absorption process. Another major layer of our GI tract is our submucosa. The submucosa functions to bind the mucosa and the muscularis. So basically, here is your mucosa. The submucosa is this one, the somehow whitish layer here. And then the muscularis is this one. So the purpose of the submucosa is just to bind the mucosa and the muscularis na layer. Okay? So next layer, we have our muscularis, which is the third layer of the GI tract or the alimentary canal, which helps in the voluntary and involuntary processes of the different organs of our GI tract. Okay? Because some of the organs that actually is a part of the GI tract can be consciously controlled or voluntary, like we can control it kung paano siya gagalaw, or it can be an involuntary process. So the reason behind that is the muscularis layer. Okay, and then last layer here, we have our serosa, which is a serous membrane composed of areolar connective tissue and simple squamous epithelium, otherwise known as mesothelium. So this simple squamous epithelium that is found in the serosa can also be known as mesothelium. And also, it is a good thing to take note of that the serosa is otherwise known or also known as the visceral peritoneum. Okay, so again, let's repeat the layers of the gastrointestinal tract. We have first, right, the mucosa, which is made out of your epithelium, the lamina propria, and the muscularis mucosae. The second layer is the submucosa, which again binds the mucosa to the third layer, which is the muscularis. So, speaking of, muscularis, again, is the third layer of the alimentary canal, and this helps in the voluntary and involuntary processes of the organs, because as we all know, as mentioned earlier, not all of the organs inside the digestive system can be consciously controlled or kaya nating kontrolin. Some of which are involuntary yung kanyang paggalaw. Like, kahit hindi mo utusan tong organ mo na ito yung gawin niya, gagawin niya pa rin because it is involuntary in nature. And the reason behind that is the muscularis layer. Then the fourth layer, of course, is your serosa, which is also known as the visceral peritoneum. It is composed of, again, an areolar connective tissue and a simple squamous epithelium, otherwise known as a mesothelium. Next, the peritoneum. Our peritoneum actually has 5 major peritoneal folds. Okay, first is your greater omentum. It is this one. The second major peritoneal fold is your falciform ligament. So in the anterior view, here is your falciform ligament. We'll also have your lesser omentum. The fourth one is the mesentery. And then the fifth one is the mesocolon. So again, what are the 5 major peritoneal folds of our peritoneum? Again, number 1 is the greater omentum, the falciform ligament. Here is its location in the anterior view of our body. Third is the lesser omentum. Fourth is your mesentery. And then the fifth one is your mesocolon. These are the 5 major peritoneal folds of our peritoneum. Okay, so let's start with the actual organs itself of our digestive system. Iisa-isahin natin sila, its structure, its major function as well. The mouth. So, imagine you are eating your food. That food, ang unang papasok yan, of course, sa ating bibig or sa ating mouth. Inside our mouth, there is, of course, your cheeks, the tongue, the palate. It frames the mouth, which is also called, by the way, the oral cavity or buccal cavity. I repeat, your mouth, so that encompasses the cheeks, tongue, and the palate frame, which frames your mouth, is otherwise known as the oral cavity or buccal cavity. So the oral or buccal cavity, it's just the same. This is just the other name. You can use it interchangeably. So your cheeks. Of course, your cheeks forms the lateral walls of the oral cavity. So yan yung nasa gilid, of course, ng ating bibig. Those are the cheeks. Your lips, which is, of course, the fleshy fold surrounding the opening of our mouth. And our palate. Our palate can actually be subdivided into 2. It can either be a hard palate or a soft palate. So our palate is a wall or septum that separates the oral cavity from the nasal cavity, and it forms actually the roof of our mouth. So kung ngayon titingin kayo sa salamin, makita nyo yung bibig nyo, like ngumanga kayo, tapos makikita nyo yung parang roof ng ating mouth. That is actually known as palate. Okay? It can either be a hard palate or a soft palate. So what is the difference between the two? Our hard palate, it forms a bony partition between the oral and the nasal cavity. It is, ang tawag sa kanya is hard palate because it is bony. At ano nga bang parang texture ng mga bones? Di ba? Matigas sila. It is hard. That's why ang tawag sa kanya is hard palate. We also have your soft palate, which is an arch-shaped muscular partition between the oropharynx and our nasopharynx that is lined with mucous membrane. So again, here are the things that you can find inside the mouth that is part of our digestive system. Number 1, your cheeks, the lips, and of course the palate, which is again a wall or septum that separates the oral cavity from the nasal cavity, and it forms the roof of our mouth. It can either be a hard palate, which is a bony partition between the oral and the nasal cavity. It is hard because it is bony. Bone kasi, di ba, is matigas or hard. We also have your soft palate, which is an arch-shaped muscular partition between the oro and the nasopharynx that is, of course, lined with mucous membrane. Okay, so this is somehow inside the mouth pa rin, the salivary gland. Our salivary glands actually have 3 major pairs that can be found inside of humans. First is your parotid gland. Here is the parotid gland. These are located inferior and anterior to the ears, between the skin and the masseter muscle. It secretes a watery solution that contains salivary amylase. Amylase is actually one of the digestive enzyme that is utilized by the digestive system for digestion process. We will be talking about this later on. But still, it's a good thing to take note of that again, the parotid gland, this is the location, and it secretes a watery solution that contains salivary amylase. Please do take note of this, the parotid, watery, because we also have other salivary glands. Okay, another major pair is your submandibular gland. These are found in the floor of our mouth. So basically, this submandibular gland is this one. It is found in the floor of our mouth. So sa baba ng ating bibig. Medial and partly inferior to the body of our mandible. And please do take note that the submandibular gland secretes a fluid that contains amylase. So, di ba parehas sila ni parotid? Parehas silang may amylase. However, inside the submandibular gland, it secretes na amylase but is it already thickened with mucus. Again, ulitin natin, submandibular gland secretes fluid as well that contains amylase but is thickened already with mucus. In comparison with your parotid gland, watery yung kanyang sinisikli. Dito naman kay submandibular gland, it is already thickened with mucus. Please do take note para hindi makalimutan, submandibular gland, letter M, mandibular, letter M for mucus. I repeat para hindi makalimutan, submandibular gland, mandibular, letter M din na amylase, but it is with mucus. Okay? Then another major pair of the salivary glands is your sublingual gland. The sublingual gland, here it is. The sublingual glands are beneath our tongue and superior to the submandibular gland, and it secretes the thickest saliva with the least amount of salivary amylase. So again, let's try to recall the 3 major pairs of salivary glands. That is your parotid gland, again that is secreting a watery solution that contains salivary amylase. Your submandibular gland, which secretes a fluid that also contains amylase but is already thickened with mucus. Submandibular, letter M, M for mucus as well. Then last one is your sublingual gland, which are beneath the tongue and superior to the submandibular gland. It also secretes the thickest saliva. However, it has the least amount of salivary amylase. That is the 3 major pairs of salivary glands. Next, another organ of our digestive system is your tongue. A tongue is an accessory digestive organ only. Together with its associated muscles, it forms the floor of the oral cavity. So, our tongue, yung dila po natin. Our tongue has extrinsic muscles and intrinsic muscles. So, let's try to talk about the extrinsic muscles of the tongue first. It originates outside the tongue. That's why extrinsic. Extrinsic kasi pag sinabi kasing ex, parang exit, so sa labas. Extrinsic muscles of the tongue originates outside the tongue. It is attached to bones in that area. It includes the hyoglossus, the genioglossus, and the styloglobus muscle. It maneuvers food for chewing. It shapes the food into a rounded mass and forces the food to the back of the mouth for swallowing. That is the purpose of the extrinsic muscles of our tongue. There's also intrinsic muscles of our tongue. The purpose of this is like this. It originates in and insert into connective tissues within the tongue. So basically sa loob, kaya nga siya intrinsic. It includes the longitudinalis superior, the longitudinalis inferior, the transversus linguae, and the verticalis linguae muscles. Alter and the shape and size of the tongue for speech and swallowing. So basically, the two kinds of the muscles of the tongue has somehow a related function. However, yung pinaka-main function niya is different. Like the extrinsic muscles for maneuvering our food and shaping it. However, the intrinsic muscles, it is more concerned with the altering the shape and the size of the tongue for speech and swallowing purposes. Our tongue also, if you can actually zoom it in, try nyo lang, i-zoom in nyo yung mag-ano kayo sa camera, tapos try nyo i-zoom in yung tongue nyo. Meron kayo makikita dyan parang maliliit na thorns. So, parang thorns yung itsura niya. Yung mga projections ang tawag kasi doon. Those parang maliliit na thorns that is found in your tongue is actually called papillae. Papillae or projections of the lamina propria covered with stratified squamous epithelium. This papillae contains actually your taste buds. Kaya tayo na nagkakaroon ng perception ng sweet, salty, bitter. It's because of our taste buds. And it contains the receptors for gustation or taste. So again, papillae, it is found in your tongue. So, andyan po siya. Makikita niyo yung parang mga maliliit na thorns. Those are projections. Yun yung term niya sa kanya. Projections of the lamina propria, again, covered with stratified squamous epithelium. And this papillae actually contains the taste buds. That's why we are able to perceive if something is salty, sweet, bitter, etc. Next, another accessory organ of our digestive system is our teeth. These are located in sockets of the alveolar processes of the mandible and our maxillae. It is used to tear, grind, and otherwise mechanically break down food. So again, the teeth, mechanical breakdown only, okay? Your teeth does not contribute to the chemical breakdown of food. It only mechanically break it down. Okay, and your teeth, ito yung structure ng ating teeth. It has 3 major regions. First is your crown, which is the visible portion above the level of the gums. So basically, yung nakikita natin with our eyes, pag ngumanga tayo, those are known as crown. And then we also have your neck, which is the constricted junction of the crown and root near the gum line. So yung parang makikita niyong parang nagbabulge sa ating gums, those are actually yung neck ng ating tooth. And we also have the root, which is the part embedded within the maxilla and the mandible. And please do take note that the blood vessels and the nerve is only found in the neck and the root of our teeth. That's why when we are experiencing toothaches, it means that this blood vessels or nerves is actually being exposed outside. So, of course, our mouth contains numerous bacteria, and what happens is once this have cavities, yung sa may crown natin, nagkaroon ng cavities and all that, mag-e-erode yan hanggang sa mabutas siya. And then, once these nerves or blood vessels are exposed to certain substances, doon nangyayari yung toothache. Okay, so we are now done with our mouth. So imagine, kumain tayo, ngumuya, lulunukin na natin. Ang susunod na area na pupuntahan yan is actually your pharynx. So the pharynx is an organ involved in both digestion and respiration process. So baka narinig nyo na si pharynx sa respiratory system kasi part din siya nun. However, the pharynx is also a part of our digestive system. And again, it is involved in the digestion and respiration process. The pharynx, it receives food and air from the mouth and air from our nasal cavities. It has three major subdivisions, the nasopharynx, the oropharynx, and the laryngopharynx. The nasopharynx, which is only involved in breathing or respiration. So again, the nasopharynx is only involved in breathing or respiration process only. Next, your oropharynx is involved in both respiratory and digestive function. And then the laryngopharynx is involved in respiratory and digestive function. So again, here are the three major subdivisions of our pharynx, that is the nasopharynx. Again, the nasopharynx is only involved in breathing or respiration process, while the oropharynx and then the laryngopharynx is actually those ones na involved talaga in the digestive process. This has something to do then with the anatomy of its location. Just look at this illustration. So here is your pharynx. Okay, this purple one. The nasopharynx is actually located here. Diba? So, pag kumakain tayo, of course, dito lang yan sa bibig, right? So, pag kumain tayo, hindi na dapat nare-reach ng ating food yung nasopharynx. Kasi, if you can try to look the location of the nasopharynx, nandito siya sa ating ilong. So, masakit yan, di ba? Kapag nasasamid tayo and all that, or may pumasok na kanin sa ating ilong, di ba, masakit siya. So, hindi yun normal, that does not normally happen. So, again, the nasopharynx is involved in the breathing process or respiration process only. It is not actually a part of the digestive system. The pharynx, or the subdivision of the pharynx that is actually part of the digestive system, is the oro and the laryngopharynx only. Okay, next. So yun na, dumaan sa mouth. Yung pumunta rin siya sa pharynx nyo. Next na, pupuntahan ng pagkain natin is our esophagus. What is the esophagus? It is a collapsible muscular tube about 25 cm or 10 inches long that connects the pharynx to our stomach. It secretes the mucus and it transports food into the stomach. Okay, so yun, dumaan na sa mouth, pharynx, dumaan na rin siya sa esophagus. Of course, the next journey of our food is through our stomach na. Our stomach is a J-shaped enlargement of the gastrointestinal tract directly inferior to the diaphragm in the abdomen. So, J-shaped enlargement daw, di ba para siyang letter J eh? Ayan. Mukha siyang letter J. It connects the esophagus to the duodenum. The duodenum is actually a part of the small intestine. And it serves as a mixing chamber and a holding reservoir. So, our stomach, aside from dito nagkakaroon ng mixing or ng digestion process, it is actually also a holding reservoir. Diba kasi pag kumain tayo, the food does not readily digest naman. Like, pagkakain ba natin, magdadigest ba siya agad? Of course not. It takes a few minutes to a few hours before that ingested food can be digested. So, para makakain tayo ng marami to fill our needs, so, nagiging holding reservoir din ng ating stomach. And also, the stomach actually has four major regions. First is your cardia. Second one is your fundus. The third is the body. And the fourth is the pyloric part. So, the cardia, which surrounds the opening of the esophagus into the stomach. So, basically, here is the cardia. Tinatandaan ko dito kasi, di ba ang ating cardiac muscles or yung heart natin, nasa taas kasi siya ng ating stomach, right? Malapit yung location niya sa taas ng stomach natin. So, cardia, parang tunog cardio, which is related to our heart, or cardio, right? So, para hindi makalimutan kung sino yung pinaka parang nasa taas ng region ng ating stomach, that is the cardia. Again, the cardia surrounds the opening of the esophagus into the stomach. Second major region of our stomach is the fundus, which is the rounded portion superior to and to the left of the cardia. Ito po yung fundus. This is the rounded portion. Third is the largest, which is the body, which is a large central portion of the stomach inferior to the fundus. So here it is the body. Itong malaking area na to. So basically, no, yung pinakamalaking area talaga ng ating stomach is the body. Yun yung term. Then fourth one is our pyloric part, which consists of the pyloric antrum, the pyloric canal, and the pylorus. And then the pyloric part is the major region of the stomach that is closest to the small intestine. So again, class, what is the four main regions of our stomach? Again, that is first, yung cardia. Yung cardia po yung nagso-surround sa opening ng esophagus into the stomach. Next is your fundus, which is this rounded portion of our stomach. The third portion is the largest one, which is the body of the stomach. And then the fourth one is the pyloric part, which consists the pyloric antrum, the pyloric canal, and the pylorus. Please do take note that the pyloric part is the area or region of the stomach that is closest to the small intestine. Ayan o, di ba kasi magkatabi sila? Ito yung pylorus ng ating pyloric part, and then ito na yung first portion of the small intestine, which is the duodenum. Mamaya di-discuss natin yan. So again, here is the stomach and its four major regions. Okay, inside the stomach pa rin, there are three types of exocrine glands in the stomach. So this exocrine glands secretes specific substances that is important both in the digestion process and the specific function of the whole digestive system. Okay, so our stomach, again, three types of exocrine glands found in the stomach. Number one is our mucous neck cells. Here are the mucous neck cells. It secretes mucus. I repeat, mucous neck cells of our stomach secretes mucus. Second one is your parietal or parietal cells, which produces intrinsic factor. This intrinsic factor is needed for the absorption of vitamin B12 and hydrochloric acid. Meron tayong nakitang star. So, what is the recall question, ma'am, in the board exam? The recall question in the board exam, it was actually asked in the clinical microscopy subject. The question is actually, what is the type of cell that produces intrinsic factor? I repeat, the recall question in the board exam is what cells or what type of cells produces intrinsic factor? And the answer to that is your parietal or parietal cell. Please do take note and highlight that information in your notes because that is a recall question in the board exam. Actually, in the board exam, marami pong tinatanong with regards to the digestive system. Hindi nila masyadong concern yung anatomy. Ang concern kasi talaga ng board exam when it comes to the digestive system is the specific laboratory test to detect abnormalities sa ating digestive system. However, during one board exam, it was asked what type of cells produces the intrinsic factor. And the answer to that again, parietal cells. And aside from the intrinsic factor, please do take note that the parietal cell also produces hydrochloric acid. Okay? And then third one is your chief cells. The chief cells secretes the pepsinogen and the gastric lipase. These are enzymes then that enables digestion. And also, please do take note G cells. G cells is located mainly in the pyloric antrum and secretes the hormone gastrin into the bloodstream. Parehas silang letter G. G cells, letter G for gastrin. So again, what are the three types of exocrine glands in the stomach? Again, number one, mucous neck cell, which secretes your mucus. Second one, the recall question in the board exam, what type of cell produces intrinsic factor needed for the absorption of vitamin B12? And it also produces hydrochloric acid, that is parietal cells. Third is your chief cells, which secretes pepsinogen and gastric lipase. And then, there is also additional here, yung G cells na tinatawag, which secretes the hormone gastrin. Letter G, G cell, letter G, gastrin. Okay, next, pancreas. The pancreas is a retroperitoneal gland that is about 12 to 15 centimeters long and 2.5 centimeters thick. Lies posterior to the greater curvature of our stomach. This pancreas secretes an enzyme-rich pancreatic juice. And this pancreatic juice, these are its major composition. We have your water, the salts, bicarbonate, and enzymes. Please do take note that this composition is actually vital for the proper digestion of food, especially the enzymes. The enzymes that is present in pancreatic juice, number 1 is the pancreatic amylase, which is the starch digesting enzyme. I repeat, the pancreatic amylase is the starch digesting enzyme. Please do take note that starch is a type of carbohydrate. So basically, yung mga kinakain nating carbohydrates is broken down by pancreatic amylase or salivary amylase. Baka ma-confuse. Just to give you additional info. The pancreatic amylase is the one that was produced in the pancreas. Okay? Kaya siya pancreatic amylase. It is starch digesting or carbohydrate digesting. And then the salivary amylase is the one that can be found in the mouth. Kaya nga siya salivary, nasa saliva po siya. It is also starch digesting enzyme as well. Ang comparison lang niya or the difference between the two is kung saan siya na-produce. Okay? Yung pancreatic, of course, sa pancreas, while the salivary amylase is inside the mouth or specifically nasa saliva siya. But then again, its major purpose is just the same, which is it is a starch or carbohydrate digesting enzyme. Also, enzymes present in the pancreatic juice, we have your trypsin, the chymotrypsin, the carboxypeptidase, and elastase, which are enzymes that digest proteins into peptides. The third one is the pancreatic lipase. This pancreatic lipase is a triglyceride digesting enzyme. Fun fact, nung sinabi kasi dito na lipase, the lipase actually come from the word lipids. Okay, lipids or fats. So, yun yung parang scientific term ng fats and lipids. And this triglyceride is actually a type of lipid. That's why, using the pancreatic lipase, the triglycerides can be broken down. Or, yung triglyceride again is a type of lipid. So, lipase. So, diba? Nanggaling dun yung term kasi niya. Diba? Lipid, lipase. Kasi yung mga major enzymes talaga natin, para ma-categorize nyo siya, baka mapansin nyo, yung mga enzymes, ang pangalan niya lagi is may ACE siya sa dulo. Amylase, di ba? Elastase, carboxypeptidase, lipase, and most of the time, yung term ng enzyme na yon is yun yung bine-breakdown niya. Katulad na nga lang ng lipase. Lipase breaks down lipids. For example, ng magandang lipid is triglyceride. Okay? So, para ma-broken down again ang mga different molecules such as starch or carbohydrate, mga proteins into peptides, triglycerides or the fats, you use different enzymes, which is again present or a composition of our pancreatic juice. Okay, another organ of the digestive system, we have your liver. The liver is the heaviest gland of the body, weighing about 1.4 kilogram or about 3 pounds in an average adult, while your gallbladder is a pear-shaped sac. Di ba mukha siyang pear? Yung fruit na pear? Parehas sila ng shape. Kaya siya pear-shaped. It is a pear-shaped sac that is located in a depression of the posterior surface of the liver. So basically, kung ito yung liver natin, tingin dito, ito yung ating gallbladder, di ba? It is in a depression in the posterior surface of the liver. Okay, inside the digestive system, there is actually a substance known as bile. So what is the significance of our bile? The bile is actually secreted by the liver and it is stored in the gallbladder. I repeat, please do take note of this. There are students who are getting confused kung saan ba talaga napoproduce ang ating bile. Minsan kasi napagpapalit nila na pag sinabing bile, gallbladder agad yung naiisip nila. But please do take note that the bile is secreted by the liver and it is only stored in the gallbladder. Kaya nga siya bladder eh. Diba, ano ba ang purpose ng bladder sa urinary system? Diba, mag-store ng urine. And in this case naman, in the digestive system, the gallbladder is a storage area of bile that comes again from the liver. Okay? And the bile aids in the emulsification of lipids in the small intestine. And please do take note as well of this additional information. The principal bile pigment is actually known as bilirubin. And the stercobilin is the one that gives feces its normal brown color. Just to give you an overview of this. Kapag baka kayo po is may mga dogs, and minsan yung mga dogs kapag nalipasan silang kumain, sumusuka sila sa umaga ng parang color yellow. And ang composition po actually noon, nung parang suka na yon kasi nalipasan silang magutom, minsan may kasamang bile yon. At yung bile na yon, kaya siya color yellow, is due to the presence of the principal bile pigment known as bilirubin. Kapag kayo po ay nakakita ng individual na mataas ang bilirubin, minsan naninilaw sila. Like naninilaw yung kanilang mata or yung kanilang skin, and that is again due to the presence of high levels of bilirubin. Which is again, what is the principal bile pigment? That is bilirubin. And this bilirubin class can actually be parang broken down pa into simpler substances such as stercobilin. This is just one of the major byproducts of bilirubin, yung stercobilin na yan. And our feces, diba, normally it is parang mga brownish yung color niya. And that is due to stercobilin. Then medyo related yung color nila, diba, yung from yellow to brown. Kasi, yung stercobilin lang naman is nanggaling lang din sa bilirubin, which is color yellow. Okay, next, the small intestine. The small intestine is the longest organ of the alimentary or the GI tract and is responsible for most of the digestion and absorption of nutrients. There is parang confusion with regards to this. Sometimes kasi we tend to think that inside the stomach lang nangyayari yung digestion process. Okay, but in reality, the most of the digestion and absorption of the nutrients is not happen or does not happen actually inside the stomach. It actually happens inside the small intestine. Okay, so please do take note of that. Our small intestine has three main regions. First is your duodenum, which is the first part of the small intestine and also the shortest of those three. The second one is the jejunum, which means empty. Yung word na jejunum actually means empty. Then the third one is the ileum, which is the final and the longest region of the small intestine. Ileum joins the large intestine at a smooth muscle sphincter called the ileocecal sphincter. Please do take note, kaya ang tawag sa kanya is ileocecal kasi ileum. And then, first part ng ating large intestine is cecum. So, diba, from ileo to cecum. Kaya ileocecal sphincter. Kaya dun siya nagmumula. Now again, duodenum, jejunum, ileum. Huwag pagpapalitin to ha. Again, ang nasa pinakataas na region, duodenum. The duodenum is the one that is closest to the stomach. Okay? So, duodenum, jejunum, ileum. Duodenum, jejunum, ileum. Duodenum, jejunum, ileum. Huwag pong pagpapalit-palitin yung kanilang pagkakasunod-sunod. Okay? Pakikabisado po yan. Then, our small intestine actually has these adaptations that increases the surface area of the small intestine so that it may be able to function it more properly. So, these adaptations are number one, circular fold, which is a deep ridge in the mucosa and then the submucosa layer. And the circular fold aids in increasing the absorption process that happens inside the small intestine. Next, we also have finger-like projections of the mucosa known as villi. Then the third one is your microvilli, which are projections of the apical membrane of the absorptive cells. The combined microscopic appearance of microvilli is actually known as brush border. So if you will be looking the microvilli actually under the microscope, parang iisa kasi yung kanilang appearance. Like hindi mo makikita yung mga specific na parang projections niya. And ang tawag doon dun sa combined microscopic appearance of the microvilli is brush border appearance. Okay, so again, what are the three adaptations that increases the surface area of the small intestine? Number 1, circular fold, which aids in increasing the absorption process. The second one is the villi, which are finger-like projections of the mucosa. And then the third one are microvilli, which are projections of the apical membrane of absorptive cells. And yung combined microscopic appearance of the microvilli, hindi nyo kasi makikita yan na parang hiwa-hiwalay na projections. Ang tawag po doon is brush border appearance. Next, the large intestine. The large intestine is the terminal portion of the gastrointestinal tract, and the primary function of this organ is to finish absorption of nutrients and water, synthesize certain vitamins, form feces, and eliminates feces from the body. So, minsan kasi, the absorption and then the digestion process that is happening inside the stomach, and especially the small intestine, is not enough pa. Like, meron pang mga certain substances na hindi pa talaga nai-absorb. So, ang gagawa na nun, yung parang final, parang finishing, is the large intestine. And your large intestine also is subdivided into 4 major regions, which is number 1, the cecum, which is the first part of the large intestine closest to the small intestine. Here is the cecum. It is a sac-like structure that is suspended inferior to the ileocecal valve. The second main region is your colon, which is divided into the ascending paangat, here, the transverse, descending kasi pababa, and the sigmoid portion. So again, your colon is divided pa into 4, which is ascending, paangat, kaya nga ascend, the transverse, and then the descending colon, and the sigmoid portion. The third region of our large intestine is our rectum, which is the storage or stores formed feces until the body is ready to expel the waste. And then the fourth one is our anal canal, which opens to the exterior of the body at the anus. So again, what are the 4 major regions of our large intestine? That is the cecum, which is the first part closest to the small intestine. Next is your colon, which is subdivided by into 4, such as the ascending, paangat, transverse, descending, pababa, and the sigmoid portion. Third major region is your rectum, and the fourth is the anal canal. And then, just the same with the small intestine, meron din pong unique features ang ating large intestine so that it may be able to function it more correctly. Number 1 is the Taeniae coli, which are 3 bands of smooth muscle that make up the longitudinal muscle layer of the muscularis of the large intestine, except at its terminal end. Here is the Taeniae coli. Ito, yung parang yellow na portion. You also have your haustra, which is successions of pouches, which gives the colon a wrinkled appearance. So, if you will be looking at the colon, di ba parang wrinkled yung kanyang appearance? Di ba mukha siya parang longganisa nga yung itsura niya, parang gano'n. Meron siyang wrinkles. And that is due to haustra. Okay? And then the third one is the omental appendices or appendages, which are small pouches of visceral peritoneum filled with fat that are attached to the Taeniae coli. So, here is the appendages na tinatawag natin.